What does it take for a single company to rise to unrivaled power, commanding vast territories and exerting unparalleled influence? From the depths of history comes the story of a Dutch colonial company that grew to unimaginable heights, ruling over huge areas and having enormous power. Let's embark on a captivating journey through the pages of history as we uncover the remarkable tale of a Dutch colonial enterprise that triumphed against incredible odds. The company's ability to cross dangerous seas, set up colonies, and make deals with local forces made it the best trader in the world. Enter a world where riches were made, fates were changed, and history was rewritten. The Dutch East India Company, which was also known as Volk, had a lot of political power, more than some nation-states. Volk's impact was far-reaching and left a permanent mark on the areas it touched. Its control over key ports and supplies gave it the power to tell local masters what to do, changing the political scene and even affecting dynastic successions. But its power was not without problems. Trying to make money often came into conflict with moral concerns and human rights. As we think about the rise and fall of this colonial powerhouse, let's learn from the past and try to build a future that balances progress with compassion and prosperity with responsibility. Even now, the Dutch East India Company's rule can be seen in the cultural and economic settings of the areas it once controlled. It is important to study and think about the history of strong colonial companies like the Dutch East India Company, not only to understand the past but also to make sense of our complicated, interconnected world today. The Dutch East India Company made it easier for people in Europe and the areas it worked in to share ideas, things, and information. This is really intriguing. The Dutch East India Company set up a complex law and administrative system so that it could control its huge territory. Dutch East India Company shows how far human desire, creativity, and discovery can go. Today, we look at the fascinating story of how this company, known as the Dutch East India Company, became the undisputed boss of the world during the golden age of exploration and trade. Join us on an exciting journey as we learn the amazing story of the Dutch East India Company, a powerful trading company that took over places and left an indelible mark on the world. Find out about stories of unthinkable wealth, exciting adventures, and an interesting mixture of cultures. Get ready to be drawn in by a story that mixes ambition, excitement, and the magnetic pull of power. Don't miss this amazing trip into the fascinating world of the Dutch East India Company, where the past comes to life and the echoes of its legacy continue to intrigue us today. The company had its own troops and ships, which allowed it to protect its own interests, put down rebellions, and take over new territory. This never-before-seen combination of economic and military power gives the Volk a place of unrivaled influence. The Volk was involved in everything from governing and society to trade and taxes. The company's constant chase of money led to exploitative practices, such as the use of forced labor and the cruel taking of resources from colonized lands. The Volk left behind a record of economic success and abuse. As time went on, the Dutch East India Company's power grew weaker, and by the 18th century, it started to go downhill. It eventually fell apart because of competing interests, bad financial management, and changes in the government system. But its memory is deeply woven into the fabric of history, and its huge impact and far-reaching effects will always leave their mark on the world. The Dutch East India Company's legacy tells us of the long-lasting effects of colonialism and the need to have a nuanced knowledge of our shared past. Dutch colonialism left behind architectural wonders, the mixing of cultures, and complex trade networks that continue to shape these places today. By looking at the rise and fall of such organizations, we can learn a lot about the way power works, the effects of uncontrolled growth, and how important it is to build fair and long-lasting relationships around the world. This led to a blending of cultures as Dutch traders and settlers mingled with the local people, changing and being changed by their habits, languages, and practices. It made its own laws and put in place ways of running the country that mixed Dutch methods with local customs. These methods set a standard for future colonial governments and had long-lasting effects on the areas under the company's control. The Volk was not only an economic giant but also a pioneer in banking. It was one of the first companies to sell shares to the public, which makes it one of the oldest examples of a joint stock business. The Volk Stock Exchange in Amsterdam, which was called the Beurs van Hendrik de Keyser, helped modern financial markets get started. Its rise to power, dominance in global trade, and cultural effect are all reminders of how complicated our past is. As we think about its impact, let's try to build a future that values equality, kindness, and working together on a global scale by learning from both its successes and failures. The story of the Dutch East India Company is a fascinating chapter in the history of human achievement. It shows how important the actions of people and groups can be in changing the direction of history. What did you learn from this video? Let us know.